some of you wanted some help on making graphs in the new version of Excel. And so what we have is, I thought I'd provide a little tutorial for you. We have just basically a demand equation and a supply equation, and we want to produce a graph of just the supply and demand. So let's start by making a couple columns here. We'll do a column for price, column for the quantity demanded, column for the quantity supplied, and we'll just throw in a price of 0 to start. I'm going to type in the formula for the quantity demanded. If you want to do an equation in Excel, it always is preceded by this equal sign. We'll just do 7 minus the 0.5. Now I want to multiply it by the price, so I'll do the asterisk, and I want to multiply it by the price, so I want to reference that particular price, which is cell A5. So I can either just type in A5, and you can see that it's highlighting the A5 in blue, and it's giving cell A5 a blue border. You could either type it in like that, or a quicker way is actually just to take your mouse and to click into the cell itself, and it'll automatically type in A5 for you. So let me tab over, because I've got that entered in. Let me type in the quantity supplied equation, 0.25, and again I'll just click in that cell A5 minus 0.5, and there we go. So that's for my 0 price. Let me pick out type in a couple other prices to choose from. Now you could type out the equation again if you needed to and click in that cell and everything. You could do it that way. It would take you a long time to go all the way to if you had to type a bunch of equations out. A faster way to do it is you can either copy and paste it, so I can just go into the previous cell that has the equation I want copied and hit copy, and I can paste it either by the button or just hitting Control V. I can keep going down if I wanted to, Control V again to paste into there. I could copy this equation and go down and go down, and you can see that as I move down, it's not referring to A5 anymore. It's recognizing that the pattern that was established in row 5 earlier, and now it's applying that to all the successive rows after that. So even though I typed in A5 in the equation earlier, as I copy and paste down, now it's referring to A7 in this case. And it's, everything else is the same. It's all the same, 0.25 and then minus 0.5 at the end. Same thing over in the quantity demanded column. If you need to, you might see every once in a while little dollar signs in front of some of the letters. If you need to use an equation and you don't want it to move down like that, you don't want the variable to go from A5 to A6 to A7, but let's say you had another sort of number written up here and you always wanted to refer to that, you could actually put a dollar sign in front of each of the A and the 7, and let's just call this D1 to reference that. Now if I were to continue dragging this down, it's going to keep the D1 there. It's not going to move down successive rows like it did previously. But let me undo some of this. Okay. Now I want to continue making my prices, but instead of having to type in 3 and 4 and 5 in the price column, I already have sort of a pattern established with increasing the price in increments of $1. And what Excel does, it recognizes that sort of a pattern, and it will allow me to sort of quickly cut and paste basically as far as I want to go. So the way that you can do that is, and let me back up too, because we started here. If I wanted to continue, instead of having to do the copy and paste thing, but I wanted to fill these cells out with the demand and supply numbers, instead of copying and pasting, I can highlight, either just do it individually. You'll see that everywhere the cell that's highlighted has this little box in the corner. If I left click on that and hold it down and drag it down, it will copy in all of the formulas or whatever was typed previously. I can do that on this side too, get the same numbers as before. I had to do that twice, so I had to go to here and drag it, and I had to go in column C and drag it. even faster way is just to highlight both cells, click on the box, drag it down, it all gets copied in. And then again, using that same sort of technique, I want to have a bunch more prices in here. So I'll highlight everything, click on that box, and you can see the little number off to the side is telling me what value the price is. So if I back up a second, you can see the price would be 3, 5, 6, 7 as I go down. So let me go down to get a price of about $15. And so with sort of one move, I'm able to copy and paste a whole lot of information. Now let's try making a graph of this and see what happens. So I'll highlight all my data, and I want to insert a graph. Now your first inclination is probably to do a line graph, and since I've got 3 columns of data highlighted, it's going to try to create a graph with 3 lines in it. And so things are kind of crazy. Don't want that. I want, because price is actually what's on my horizontal axis, the quantities is, sorry, the price is the vertical, the quantity is my horizontal axis. So really I only want 2 lines, a demand line and a supply line. Usually I've had a lot better experience doing scatter plots. So if you pull down that little menu, you can do the dots by themselves, you can do the lines with the dots clearly delineated. I like to just kind of do lines without the dots on them, either smooth lines or straight line connectors. So we'll select that, and it's there, it's giving it to me. A couple things here that we want to clean up in the graph that we have. The first thing to notice is that, well, I have on my vertical axis here I have a -1, and the reason is because I've got some negative values here up in the quantity. So apparently there are some prices that are so low that, because of the way that the supply equation is set up, there are some prices that are so low that suppliers wouldn't be willing to supply at all. Actually, just by virtue of the formula, they'd have a negative amount. So we don't really need to consider those things. But what it's also demonstrating is that it's putting the quantity as the vertical axis, because you can see the highest quantity is only about 7 on the demand side, and the price, which goes all the way up to 15, is on the horizontal axis. And so those are backwards, because we usually have price as the vertical, quantity as the horizontal. So we need to switch that. What is tempting is this switch the row and column buttons, because you might think, hey, if I hit that, it's going to flip my axes around and it'll give me what I want. As I do that, I get some pretty interesting pictures. So that's obviously not what we wanted to do. So I need to somehow edit my data. I can either right click in the picture somewhere and I can format the chart area, but a faster step is to do the select data button. As I bring that up, it sees that there are 2 lines that it's drawing, a quantity demand line and a quantity supply line. So let's edit this so that I can get my rows and columns right. So I'll highlight the QD and I'll hit edit. The series name, or sort of what it's going to call it in the legend over here, is referring to that QD cell, so that's fine. But here, as we go down here, the X values, or the horizontal values, it's thinking is the price column, and that's not right. So you can either go in and change these numbers around. So I could go in and type here B5 to B20 if I wanted to do that. Or probably a faster way is to click on this little button here, and it'll bring up a menu like this, and I could just go in and highlight and say that I want all that. Oops. Let's delete that and try again. So I want the X value to be the horizontal. There we go. Or I want the horizontal to be the quantity. And I want my Y value, click on this button, to be the price. Currently it's thinking quantity is the vertical. I want price to be on the vertical. You can already sort of see what's happening down below. It's a little weird because the quantity demand has price as the vertical, but I haven't fixed the quantity supply to have price as the vertical either. So right now the picture is going to look a little odd. But after I go in and edit the quantity supplied column, so I want the quantity supplied X values to be these, and I want my quantity supplied Y values to be these. There we go. Again, the preview sort of behind the picture gives me what I want. I can hit OK, and everything looks good, so I'll hit OK again, and here you go. Now again, just to sort of pretty things up a bit, algebraically I've got some negative numbers here, but since these are quantities, there's no such thing as a negative quantity of something, so I don't really need, I could go in and just delete these rows if I wanted to, but let's keep them there for now. What we can do is let's just get rid of any negative value on the horizontal axis. So you can click somewhere on this axis and it should highlight it. Then if I right click in there, well, it's always moving it. If I right click on the axis somewhere, it will say give me an opportunity to format that axis. Brings up a little window here. There's lots of different options you can pick from. Really what we want to just fix is this minimum value. Currently it's going to automatically pick it for us, and since it was negative, it wants to at least include some of those negative values, so it's going to stretch it all the way out to -2, but we'll just set that at 0. So I'll just type in 0, and really you can see way out here that's going all the way out to 8, even though my maximum quantity was 7. So if you wanted, you could just change that to 7. Oops. And I'll hit close, and so it's giving me what we want. You could do some other fancy things if you wanted to. If I double click on the picture, it gives me a lot of options. Up here, the design, different colors, same colors of the lines, different shades though. Can go to the layout, and if I wanted to, I could make a title and call this supply and demand. I could make it above, right now it's kind of putting it smack in the middle of the picture. I could make rise above it somehow. I'll just get rid of it. I could label my axes and say I want the horizontal axis is quantity and the vertical axis, a couple different ways of doing it, is the price. So there we go. Right now the legend is over here, and it's telling me what the different colored lines stand for. I could make it show up at the side currently. I could do it on the left hand side. I could do it at the bottom. Any way you want. Once I'm done with this, I could actually, if I wanted to use this picture in another application, I can highlight it and copy it, and then perhaps go into Microsoft Word or PowerPoint or anything else and paste it, and there's my picture. One of the things that it does is it'll give it this border, and you might not want that border showing up like that. So if I go back into Excel here and highlight it's always doing that, highlight here, format the chart area, and let's see the border. I actually don't want a border at all, so I'll get rid of it. Close. And if I sort of unselect it, you can see that the charts here doesn't really have a border on it. So then if I highlight it, copy, go into Word, paste, now it doesn't have that kind of messy border around it.